Ever noticed how the loudest person in the room often wins, even when they're talking absolute nonsense? It burns, doesn't it? You sit there, armed with facts, logic, and the truth. You know you are right. But somehow, you leave the conversation feeling defeated, small, and unheard. You replay the scene in your head for hours. You think of the perfect comeback when it's far too late. The tightness in your chest. The frustration of being misunderstood. The exhaustion of trying to explain yourself to people who are committed to not understanding you. But imagine for a second that this isn't a flaw in your personality. Imagine that this frustration is actually a signal. It is telling you that you are playing a game you were never designed to win, using rules that were written against you. Most people think an argument is a battle of logic. They think it's about who has the better data or who has the sharper memory. They are wrong. Listen to me carefully. An argument is not an exchange of information. An argument is an exchange of emotion. It is a battle for the psychological high ground. And the moment you try to use logic to fight an emotional battle, you have already lost. You are bringing a calculator to a knife fight. You have spent your life trying to be correct. You were taught that if you are right, you will be rewarded. But the real world is a jungle, not a classroom. In the jungle, the one who is right doesn't survive. The one who is dominant survives. But dominance doesn't mean shouting. In fact, true dominance is usually silent. Think about the last time you felt forced to defend yourself. You felt an urgency, didn't you? A need to respond instantly. That urgency is your enemy. That urgency is the leash the other person has wrapped around your neck. When they pull, you bark. To win, even when you are wrong, you must cut the leash. You must understand the power of the pregnant pause. When someone accuses you or challenges you or points out a mistake you made, your instinct is to explain, to apologize, to rationalize. Don't. Instead, look them in the eyes. Count to 3 in your head and say nothing. This silence is terrifying to the human brain. We are social creatures. We are wired to fill the silence because silence implies rejection. When you stay silent, you flip the script. You force them to wonder if they said something wrong. You force them to over-explain their attack. You watch them crumble under the weight of your quiet. They saw you. You saw them. But the game was already over. Now, let's go deeper. What happens when the silence breaks? What happens when you are factually, undeniably wrong? Maybe you did forget the deadline. Maybe you did make the mistake. The amateur argues the facts. The master argues the frame. If you are wrong, admit it instantly, but without shame. This is a technique called fogging. Imagine throwing a rock into a fog bank. What happens? The rock passes through. It hits nothing. There is no impact. Be the fog. If they say, "You are incredibly lazy for missing this," do not say, "I'm not lazy, I was busy." That is resistance. That is a wall they can hit. Instead, you say, "You're right. I certainly missed it this time." Do you see what happened? You agreed with the truth, but you stripped it of its emotional power. You didn't give them the satisfaction of a fight. You took their weapon and placed it gently on the table. By accepting the mistake without accepting the shame, you show that your self-worth is not up for negotiation. You are untouchable not because you are perfect, but because you are not afraid of being imperfect. Here is the truth. The person who cares the least holds the most power. This is the law of least effort. In every social interaction, there is one person trying to impress and one person being impressed. There is one person seeking validation and one person granting it. When you argue desperately to prove you are right, you are the one seeking validation. You are begging them to agree with your reality. You are handing them your power and asking them to give it back to you. Stop it. Treat your mistakes and your arguments like a training camp. Every time someone challenges you, it is an opportunity to practice emotional stoicism. It is a test. Can you stand in the fire and not burn? There is a concept in dark psychology called the Socratic Trap. It is how you win without ever making a statement. When someone attacks you, do not defend. Ask, why does that make you so angry? What is your goal in telling me this? How do you see this resolving? Turn their aggression back on them. Make them explain their anger. Make them justify their disrespect. Usually, they can't. They will stutter. They will deflect. They will realize that their anger looks foolish when reflected in the mirror of your calmness. You are not fighting them. You are holding up a mirror. And if they don't like what they see, that is not your problem. Read that again. The goal isn't to convince them. The goal is to remain unconvinced by their chaos. You see, The reason manipulators and toxic people target you is not because you are weak. It is because you have a high level of empathy. You care about harmony. You want to fix things. They know this. They weaponize your desire for peace against you. They know you will sacrifice your dignity to keep the peace. But now, you are different. Now, you understand that your peace is more important than their approval. If you are wrong, you own it. If you are right, you state it once, and then you withdraw. You do not cast your pearls before swine. You do not waste your logic on those who are committed to misunderstanding you. This is how you win. You win by realizing there is no prize for being right. The only prize worth having is your own self-respect. So the next time the heat rises in your chest, the next time you feel that urge to explain, to defend, to fight, stop, breathe, look at them. Realize that they are dancing to a music that you can no longer hear. Let them dance alone. You have the power to turn every argument into a demonstration of your control. Not control over them. That is impossible. But control over yourself. And in a world where everyone is losing their minds, the person who keeps theirs is king. Walk in silence. Speak with intent. And never let them see you bleed.